On the evening of June 9th, 1912, there was little reason for anyone in town to believe that by sunrise their community would become the center of one of the most horrifying crimes in American history. Villisca was the kind of place where people rarely locked their doors. Located among the rolling farmland of southwestern Iowa, the town was home to fewer than 3,000 residents. Neighbors knew each other by name. Children played in the streets until sunset. Families attended church together every Sunday and gathered for community events throughout the year. Safety was not something people thought about. It was simply expected. Among the town's respected residents was 43-year-old Josiah Moore. Josiah was a successful businessman who owned a farm equipment store in town. He was known as hardworking, friendly, and ambitious. Alongside him was his wife, Sarah, who devoted much of her life to raising their children and caring for their home. Together, they had built what appeared to be an ordinary but happy life. Their 4 children filled the house with energy and noise. Herman, the oldest at 11 years old, was quiet and thoughtful. Catherine, 10 years old, loved spending time with friends and helping her mother around the house. Boyd, age 7, enjoyed outdoor adventures and games with neighborhood children. Little Paul, only 5 years old, followed his older siblings everywhere. That Sunday had been busy. The family attended services at the local Presbyterian church as they did most weeks. The evening service included a special Children's Day program featuring songs, performances, and speeches from local children. Many residents attended. The church was full. Parents smiled proudly as their children stood before the congregation. Among those participating were several members of the Moore family. After the event ended around 9:30 in the evening, the family lingered outside speaking with friends and neighbors before finally beginning the short walk home. Accompanying them were 2 young sisters, 8-year-old Ina Stillinger and 12-year-old Lena Stillinger. The girls were friends with Catherine Moore and had received permission from their parents to spend the night at the Moore residence. Sleepovers were common in Villisca. No one thought twice about it. Witnesses later remembered seeing the group walking through town beneath the glow of street lamps. The children laughed and talked as they made their way toward the Moore house on East 2nd Street. It would be the last time any of them were ever seen alive. The family arrived home shortly before 10 o'clock. Inside the house, the routines of an ordinary evening unfolded. The children prepared for bed. Josiah likely checked the doors and extinguished lamps downstairs. Sarah ensured that everyone settled into their rooms. By all appearances, the home became quiet shortly after 10:30. At some point during the night, someone entered the Moore house. Investigators would later debate exactly when the killer arrived. Some believed the murderer slipped inside after the family had fallen asleep. Others suspected the individual may have entered earlier and hidden somewhere inside the house while the family returned from church and prepared for bed. The house itself offered several possibilities. A person familiar with the layout could move quietly from room to room. The killer eventually armed himself with an axe that belonged to Josiah Moore. The weapon had reportedly been left near the back of the house. Sometime after midnight, the murders began. The first victims were believed to be Josiah and Sarah Moore. They slept in the downstairs bedroom. Evidence suggested the killer approached their bed while they remained asleep. The attack was sudden and devastating. Neither appeared to have had any opportunity to defend themselves. The murderer then moved upstairs. One by one, the children became victims. Herman, Catherine,
Boyd, Paul.
In the guest room, Lena and Ina Stillinger were attacked as they slept after what should have been an ordinary childhood sleepover. The entire assault may have taken less than 30 minutes. Yet certain details of the crime scene suggested the killer remained inside the home long after the murders had ended. Investigators discovered that mirrors had been covered. Windows were draped with clothing and fabric. Several victims had sheets placed over their bodies. Food appeared to have been eaten in the kitchen. A bowl of water containing bloodstains sat nearby. The action seemed deliberate, ritualistic almost, as if the murderer had taken time to compose the scene before quietly disappearing into the darkness. When dawn arrived on June 10th, the Moore house remained strangely silent. Neighbors began noticing unusual signs. The family had not emerged for morning chores. Curtains remained drawn. The house seemed still. At approximately 7 o'clock in the morning, neighbor Mary Peckham became concerned. She approached the house and knocked on the door. No answer came. Assuming the family had overslept after the previous night's festivities, she tried again. Still nothing. Eventually, she contacted Josiah's brother, Ross Moore. When Ross arrived, he used a key to enter the house. Moments later, he stumbled back outside in horror. Inside the downstairs bedroom lay Josiah and Sarah. Upstairs, the children remained where they had fallen asleep only hours earlier. Word spread rapidly through Villisca. Residents rushed toward the Moore home. Some hoped reports had been exaggerated. Others feared the worst. The truth proved even more horrifying than rumors suggested. Within hours, hundreds of people gathered outside the residence. Curiosity seekers wandered through rooms that should have been secured as a crime scene. Neighbors touched furniture, moved objects, walked across floors. Potential evidence vanished beneath countless footprints. The sheriff faced an impossible situation. Crime scene preservation in 1912 was primitive even under ideal circumstances. What unfolded in Villisca was chaos. Investigators attempted to document the scene while townspeople crowded inside the home. By modern standards, the contamination was catastrophic. Any chance of identifying fingerprints or preserving trace evidence disappeared almost immediately. The killer had vanished. And with every passing hour, the likelihood of finding them diminished. Authorities quickly began searching for suspects. Railroad workers were questioned. Traveling salesmen became persons of interest. Drifters passing through town found themselves under suspicion. The brutality of the murders shocked even experienced investigators. Many believed only someone deeply disturbed could commit such a crime. Others suspected personal motives. Had Josiah Moore made enemies through business dealings? Was the attack directed specifically at him? Or had the families simply become victims of a stranger passing through town? The questions multiplied faster than answers arrived. Then investigators focused on one man, a traveling minister named George Kelly. Kelly had visited Villisca shortly before the murders and reportedly behaved strangely during his stay. Witnesses described him as nervous and socially awkward. Some claimed he possessed an unusual interest in stories involving violent crimes. Years later, authorities arrested Kelly and subjected him to lengthy interrogations. Eventually, he confessed. His confession included details investigators believed only the killer could know. Newspapers across the country declared the mystery solved. But problems quickly emerged. Kelly's statements were inconsistent. Many details conflicted with physical evidence. He later recanted, claiming his confession had been coerced. A jury ultimately failed to convict him. The case remained open. Other suspects followed. Some residents accused local businessman Frank Jones, a powerful figure in Villisca and former employer of Josiah Moore. Rumors circulated of business disputes and personal grudges. Stories spread involving alleged affairs and revenge plots. None could be proven. Evidence remained elusive. Decades passed. Investigators came and went. Files grew larger. Leads grew colder. The axe murders entered American folklore. The Moore house remained standing, preserved as a silent reminder of the tragedy that occurred within its walls. Visitors reported strange experiences. Unexplained noises echoed through empty rooms. Footsteps sounded on staircases where no one stood. Whether paranormal or psychological, the stories only deepened the mystery surrounding Villisca. More than 100 years later, the identity of the killer remains unknown. No conviction was ever secured. No definitive explanation ever emerged. Some historians believe George Kelly was responsible. Others point toward Frank Jones. Still others suspect a transient serial killer who vanished onto America's railways before striking elsewhere. Perhaps the answer died with the murderer long ago. Or perhaps the truth still waits hidden somewhere within forgotten records and overlooked evidence. What happened inside the Moore house on that summer night in 1912 continues to fascinate investigators and historians alike. Because some mysteries fade with time, the Villisca axe murders never did. They remain frozen in history. A quiet house, a sleeping family, a killer who entered unnoticed. And a question that America still cannot answer. Who walked out of that house before sunrise?